I lost 5 pounds. I had to move out of my home. When I talk about this, people often ask me if it would be easier now that Bitcoin is so much better known. So I decided to try living on Bitcoin again this year, again for a week, and see if it would be easier. All right, so I looked on CoinMap, and it said that Ramen Underground took Bitcoin. I also looked on Yelp, and on their Yelp page says it took Bitcoin. We came here to a really popular ramen place, but to my disappointment, they say they don't take it at this location. They only take it at their location in Japantown. So instead, we're going to walk over to the Embarcadero to Buyer's Best Friend, which I'm pretty sure does take Bitcoin. Hey, how are you? So we walked all the way over to the Embarcadero to go to Buyer's Best Friend, which does take Bitcoin. I went ahead and selected a kind of pathetic lunch of pickles and coconut chips and green tea, kind of limited options there. Went to pay the $26 in Bitcoin, which is about 0.06032 Bitcoin, and sent the Bitcoin, but it wasn't registering on their end that they had received it. Showing up in my app as an unconfirmed transaction, so the money didn't go through, Bitcoin didn't go through, and we don't know why. I did another transaction just sending from my blockchain wallet to my Coinbase wallet, and it did work, so I think maybe it was on their end, but I'm not really sure why it's not working. And the bad thing is, like, once I've sent that Bitcoin out, eventually I think it will be confirmed, and so I'm out the $26 worth of Bitcoin, but they didn't want to give me the groceries if they hadn't received an email from Coinbase telling them that they'd received the money. So now we're going to head back to the office, and I'm going to send some Bitcoin to foodler.com, which is a food delivery service, and try to order that way. And hopefully that one works, because it's past 2 o'clock now, and still no food. The first day of living on Bitcoin was, much like last year, pretty hard. The second day, I drove out to Silicon Valley to meet a very young Bitcoin miner.
These two computer boards right here, and they each have 32 chips on them. They're called ASIC miner blades.
The 16-year-old homeschooled kid who had built a Bitcoin rig that was helping to encrypt and decrypt Bitcoin transactions in exchange for money.
And they 12 watts of power pipe into each one, and they do all the calculations for solving each of these blocks.
But he had spent about $1,000 building his Bitcoin rig and had only made a fraction of a Bitcoin, or about $200 off of it. So he'd actually stopped running it because it was costing him $50 a month in power. And it really showed that Bitcoin has just changed so much that you really have to invest in these very powerful machines in order to make money mining. What did your parents think about this whole Bitcoin mining thing?
Neither of them is very into the whole tech world. I mean, we live here in Silicon Valley, but my dad's a lawyer, and so they're not basically into all of that. And there was a lot of skepticism surrounding Bitcoin at first, not only because it was so volatile, but also because of criminal use. And so they just weren't sure quite what to think right when I started getting into it.
But they eventually came on board.
Right. When they saw me running it and that I actually got my payments every week, that they started to trust it a little more.
I hadn't heard about it at all. So he had to tell me what it was, and then I had to try to comprehend what a virtual currency was. And then I started hearing about the criminals who were using it. And so I wanted to make sure that he was not getting into some shadowy underworld where if he was extending himself into that community, he might accidentally get into something that he shouldn't, or even if FBI or something was investigating the criminals, that they might connect him in some way.
Because at the point I joined, there were a lot of people joining, and so the difficulty was getting really high, which meant that people who were running their mining rigs by themselves weren't able to solve blocks individually, and so it made a lot more sense to join a mining pool. I mined a total of 0.38, I think. The current value, I think, is around $450, so it would be, like $150. It cost me a lot. I definitely haven't made my return on investment. It cost me around $700 total, or $800. It costs about $50 a month in power, which doesn't change. But the value was constantly going up and down. When Mt. Gox crashed, and there was the big issue in China with them banning it, the value basically crashed. And so, because difficulty was constantly going up, I wasn't able to pay my $50 a month in power, and it really wasn't making sense as far as investment.
Do you let people pay in Bitcoin here? You do? Okay, awesome. We'll be ordering some food.
We opened in 2004, right here in downtown Palo Alto. This was our first location.
And you opened here a few months before Facebook first opened their offices near here.
So we opened in March of 2004, and I think Facebook moved in 2 months after that.
How did you first hear about Bitcoin, and how did you decide to start accepting it?
So Bitcoin, I probably first heard about it through friends in 2012. We have a lot of friends that have Bitcoin, and we're buying Bitcoin very early on when it was, maybe at $1, something like that. Yeah, back then. And we were thinking of a clever way to accept it so that you could actually buy a pack of coffee, or buy a latte or a cappuccino or a food item. And we came up with this system probably in January, and then ended up launching it. I think it was in March or April of 2013. So we've been accepting it now, I guess, for over a year.
Okay.
And the idea is really simple. So you walk up to the register, look at the screen. It tells you, all the items you've ordered, and also how much is the price in dollars and how much is the price in Bitcoin. And then you scan our QR code, which is listed right there, and pay with your phone. We use the blockchain app because we think it's pretty easy and it works pretty well, and you can instantly verify the transaction.
Okay. How many people or how much Bitcoin have you gotten over the past year?
So right now, I think we've gotten more than, or close to 6 Bitcoin total,
okay.
Which might not sound like a crazy amount of money, but when our average transaction is $3, $4, $5, it is a lot. It's a lot of volume, quantity of transactions, because most transactions aren't very large here.
One of my saviors this week when it comes to spending my Bitcoin is a mobile gift card company called Gift. They accept Bitcoin, so I was able to essentially launder my Bitcoin through them and buy gift cards for a whole bunch of different companies and retailers.
I'm Surveillane, co-founder, CEO of Gift, mobile gift card company. We're trying to digitize the gift card space, allowing consumers to upload plastic cards to their mobile phones, and you can use the phone to scan at the point of sale and pay for your purchases pretty much in about 100,000 stores across America.
What have your sales in Bitcoin been like over the past year?
Look, it's grown steadily. Obviously, it tracks Bitcoin adoption. So when Bitcoin is going up in price and there's a lot of media attention, more people sort of buy Bitcoins, they want to spend it, they want to use it. And now we're kind of in a lull phase of Bitcoin at the moment. So there's just less people interested in Bitcoin. Everyone thinks, okay, the price has gone from 1,200 down to 400, and the perception is that it's crashed. And so that affects the number of Bitcoin users coming on board. But people who've been into Bitcoin for a long time, loyal customers, keep coming back. They like using it. They like paying with it.
And when Overstock started taking Bitcoin earlier this year, they had probably $1 million in sales in the first 2 months or so, and they said it was about 1% to 2% of their business. But you said you guys are actually doing more Bitcoin business than that.
As a percentage, yeah. I mean, as a percentage, it's not 1% or 2%. It's more than that. Overstock haven't actually announced what their latest numbers are. I'd like to see, since the price dropped from 800, 900 down to 400, it's been kind of quiet, right? So this is, I think, a trend throughout the industry. When the price goes up and down, it affects your sales.
Mm-hmm. You said it's usually around $1 million per month in Bitcoin sales?
We do 7 figures in general on Bitcoin sales. Yeah.
And you have an interesting theory. You think part of the reason why Bitcoin's price has gone down is because there are so many companies that have started taking it, right?
I mean, the Bitcoin marketplaces, exchanges, the way they trade, essentially you have buyers and sellers, right? So the buyers are people who want to invest in Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin to use it as a currency or whatnot. And then on the sell side, people who have the coins want to get cash. And the problem we have in the market right now is that the number of consumers using Bitcoin over the past year probably gone up 2, 3, 4x. The number of merchants, 20x. Right, so companies like BitPay are onboarding more and more merchants every day, and this is creating more places to spend your coins. But every time you spend coins with a retailer, what really happens is those coins go through the payment provider and goes back into the open market and gets sold. Because in the case of gift, we've got to sell them to replenish inventory. We can't pay our suppliers in Bitcoin.
Right.
So it creates an imbalance. And right now there's an imbalance in the market dynamic where you've got more sellers than buyers. And that'll shift over time, but that's just where we are right now.
So no luck on the gas front or the Kmart front at all. I'd gone on to Gift and used my Bitcoin to buy a Kmart gift card for $25. And I came here, I was steered wrong by Reddit. Somebody on Reddit suggested that you can buy a gas gift card at Kmart. So I was going to exchange my Kmart gift card for a gas gift card and then head to a gas station to get gas for my car. But when I tried to buy a gift card here, they told me I could only buy it with cash or debit, and they wouldn't let me buy it for with a Kmart gift card. So total bust trying to use my Bitcoin through an intermediary at Kmart. Part of what I like to do in my reporting about Bitcoin is to show the faces behind this kind of complicated, cryptographic, digital currency. I think it's really confusing for a lot of people, and so I try to explain how it works by showing the people who are running it, not just all the computers. So it's day 3 of living on Bitcoin, and tonight I came to a Women in Bitcoin event, in part because I've been writing a little bit about the diversity or lack of diversity in the Bitcoin community, and so I wanted to meet some of the women that are involved. And there's a marketing director here for a Bitcoin wallet service. There's an engineer from a Bitcoin mining company. A lot of women that are doing really important things in the Bitcoin community, and they just may not be the faces of their companies, but they're involved.
My name is Paige Freeman, and I'm the Vice President of Sales at BitPay. We are the leading payment processor for Bitcoin, and we help companies accept Bitcoin as a form of payment, and we can easily convert it right back to dollars. It was an easy decision to start an organization to help promote women within the Bitcoin community. There have been many conversations at past conferences where women would get together and just discuss the fact that there weren't many around. And so it was one of those things where there seemed to be a pretty good Bitcoin community here in San Francisco, but we wanted to also bring women in and explain to them what Bitcoin's all about and help them get involved. We maybe had 5 people at first meet up, and then since then it's grown, and we are planning to expand into different cities.
This might be their first or second event, and they choose to come here because they know it'll probably be smaller, and they think that it'll be less intimidating. And that's really what this is all about, just creating a space to have that conversation, because it is intimidating to walk into a room where there's 50 men and maybe 3 or 4 women. And I think especially being new to something based out of technology and finance, something that a lot of times women may not be comfortable with, or they may not really understand the basics of what virtual currency is, this is a really good space for them. So it's been great.
I'm here because I've just been a believer and enthusiast for about a year and a half, and left my secure job to jump on the bandwagon because I've become a bullish Bitcoin holder myself, and joined the tribe.
So you bought Bitcoin very early for $13, so you have a good sense of market timing. What do you kind of want to do moving forward? Are you planning on sitting on it? Do you expect the price to go way up? What's your trading strategy now?
So a lot of people who are sort of keeping an eye on the Federal Reserve and the U.S. money supply are investing in things like Bitcoin and precious metals in order as a hedge against the possibility of massive, inflation more than we're getting now. As far as my personal trading strategy, I'm a part-time professional astrologer, and I actually have done very well trading short-term based on where the planets are. So, but I'm sure that does not reflect the vast majority of Bitcoin traders.
So based on astrology, what should a person who wants to trade in Bitcoin do right now?
All of this is subject to disruption. Suppose something happens to the US dollar, then astrology basically goes out the window. But if that does not occur, based on what's happened in the past, there could be a drop in price later in May. there could be another drop in price around September, and a lot the same factor that accompanied the massive spike in April last year and the really tumultuous activity now, that is occurring again in January of 2015. So there could be sort of a ramp up to that period. But again, I'm a little uncertain about that one.
Seems like as good a guess. It seems like as good a guess as anyone can make. So that's what I did on Friday. I went to dinner at Ramen Underground, a restaurant in Japantown that takes Bitcoin. And then with some of my friends, we went to the strip club. And I found out that there's at least one woman there who has a Bitcoin wallet. And she popped it up so I could scan it and send her a payment. To be perfectly honest, my living on Bitcoin experiment is a lark. This is not the way that Bitcoin is supposed to be used to pay for lunch or to pay to go on a wine tour. The real benefits come from, one, being able to send money online with no fees, being able to create a bank account in an instant. It's really that easy. It's like creating an email account. And so that's kind of amazing, and it's kind of the point of Bitcoin. But I also saw that a lot of companies in this space have benefited greatly from being in Bitcoin. I went to visit Coinbase, and they've gone from 3 employees to 26 employees, and they've gotten lots of venture capital. So, entrepreneurs who got into this early have really benefited.